Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the Boxhard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the Boxhard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 48 of the Boxhard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, very good. Now, again, it's a bit of a dead period of boxing. The month of August is the month where not much boxing traditionally takes place, but there has been a couple of fights. But again, it's just another show where there's not going to be too much talking. It's mainly going to be the interviews taking up most of the time on this week's show again. And again, we've also got another world champion for you that we'll be speaking to at the end of, or just before part one ends, of course. So we're going to jump straight into part one. Part one is now beginning with the review part of the show. We're going to review a fight that took place over in USA. There's two cards to mention, and that is really it. And then in the preview part of the show, we've only got one fight to mention. So we're going to start with card number one over at the Honda Center in California, USA. Top of the bill, Robert the Ghost Guerrero, former world champion, of course. He fought David Emmanuel Peralta. A lot of people didn't really know too much about him. He had a record of 25 wins, 2 losses and 1 draw going into this fight. Robert Guerrero, of course, 33 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. Peralta was also cut in round 5. He was cut on his eye. As I said, a lot of people didn't really know too much about Peralta. Robert Guerrero, a lot of people think he's over the hill, including me. And he went in there and he lost a split decision after 12 rounds. So, I think it's really time for him to hang up the gloves now. I think I've been saying it for his last couple of fights. He's always not interesting, but he's always in wars when really I don't think these opponents would have been able to hang with him at all a couple of years back, or 3 or 4 years back. And he's really in there now, just taking punishment, and he's kind of destroying any legacy that he did have. So I'd really like to see Robert Guerrero retire now. And I think he's been a good servant for the sport. He's done a lot of things in boxing. He's achieved his childhood dreams, but I think it's time he called it a day now. So I'd like to see Robert Guerrero really hang him up. But yeah, that's it for that one. Also on that card, Alfredo Angulo. He took on Freddie Hernandez. Now, Angulo, he's been in a lot of tough fights. So is Freddie Hernandez. It was a good fight. I did say it was going to be the best fight of the night. And I think, to be honest, I was proved right. Alfredo Angulo actually lost this fight unanimously after 10 rounds. And Hernandez was cut in round 5 as well. So two cuts on the eyes on this card. It's quite remarkable. Both guys were cut. There was 2 fights, so the main event and the chief support. Both opponents were cut. The right eye in the Guerrero fight, that was Peralta being cut, and the left eye in the Angulo fight, and it was Freddie Hernandez being cut, both in the same round. It's not that interesting, actually, as I say it back. But yeah, Freddie Hernandez managed to grind out a win here. It's a good fight. And Angulo, another man who, to be honest, it was his 30th fight. And I think he's never really I think his best days are kind of behind him as well. He's been match tough, though, you've got to say. So also on that bill, Terrell Gausha, he cruised to 19-0. I say cruised. It was a majority decision win after 10 rounds over Steven Martinez. But it was a good fight. And Gausha, of course, a former Olympian, he moves on to bigger and better things. But that's really it for the California bill. We're now going to go over to the Washington bill. Again, it's someone that probably wouldn't have got a mention if he didn't take a shellacking from Danny Garcia. Top of the bill, Rod Salka, 22-4 going into his fight. He's now 23-4. He picked up a unanimous decision win after 8 rounds over Justin Savvy. Not too savvy on the night. And also a man that we've been mentioning for quite a while now, a young prospect, Devin Haney, a lightweight young prospect. He cruised to 9-0 with a unanimous decision win after 6 rounds over Carlos Castillo. But that's really it for the review part of the show. We're now going to talk about the funny name fighter of this week and, of course, of last week. The funny name fighter of last week was a guy by the name of Happy Dude. His fight was scheduled and it seems like it hasn't taken place. It's happened a few times now with these funny name fighters, and to be honest, I don't know if we might have to do away with this segment of the show. It's a bit annoying because I know that people are looking forward to that and people want to know the results, but again, this result, it hasn't actually been updated yet, so it might change. His fight was supposed to take place on the Sunday, but it hasn't been updated, so hopefully that gets updated soon and we'll be able to tell you what happened. But again, very sorry about that. The funny name fighter of next week's show is, I went through the names, it's not too many. I mean, we're going to have to go with a guy who's fighting over in Quebec, Canada, a man called Golden Garcia. And, he's I'm not sure what's golden about him, but he's 6-0, so he's been pretty shiny so far. And he takes on Jesus Perez, who has a record of 7 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw. So I'm hoping that Golden Garcia can get the business done. Again, it's not a really funny name. It's just a bit of an odd one, a bit of one that stands out here. And that is really the best we could do for this week's funny name. So I'm very, very sorry about that. That's it for the funny name fighter. That's it for the review part of the show. Ayaz, I believe that there's no news on this week's show. There's not really anything that's happened over the last week or so. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, he'll be back next week with hopefully some exciting news. But that's really it for part 1. We're now going to welcome our first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former IBF Light-Middleweight champion of the world, Carlos Molina. Carlos, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Now, Carlos, my first question for you, a typical opener. What got you into boxing? What was the reason you first put on a pair of gloves?
I guess at the time I wasn't really doing anything, and it kind of helped me. Boxing helped me, stay off the streets. And because I started my first amateur fight at 18 years old, and I was kind of bouncing around. I, dropped out of school, and wasn't really doing anything. And I just started watching boxing, and that's why I feel like I became a fan first, because I was watching boxing at 18, and I was like, man, I was loving it. And then I used to watch boxing every time it was on. If it was Monday, I'll watch it. Monday, Friday, Saturday. And then from there, I just wanted to try it myself.
Who would you say, inspired you? Who did you used to watch most? Who did you want to be like when you decided to make that decision?
Well, at the time, I guess it was there was Oscar de la Hoya. There was Barrera Morales. There was a lot of fighters here and there. But then once I started going to the gym, my trainer got me watching some Salvador Sanchez videos, and then I really liked that. And then I really liked the way Salvador Sanchez performed.
So some good fighters there. Now, of course, you turned pro in October 2003. I'm going to jump to December of 2005. Now, you take on Julio Cesar Chavez in your 10th professional fight. He was 23-0 at the time. You were 8-1. It was a 6-rounder that was scored a draw. A very controversial decision. Just how controversial was that decision looking back now 10 years later?
Well, I thought I won the fight easily. By a decision. But and the fans did too. It was kind of like a big deal there because it was in Monterrey, Mexico. That was like his hometown, even though he wasn't from Monterrey. It was, all the country was behind him. But after seeing that he lost against me and they gave it a draw, everybody was booing him and throwing beers and cups, and it was a big deal like that. So the fans let me know right away who they thought won the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you fought him in an immediate rematch. One judge had it a draw, whilst the other 2 judges gave it 4-2 in favour of Chavez. But yet again, another close fight. Did you think that was a more defined result? Do you think he won that fight?
I guess, I guess he did. You just gotta accept it, sometimes. At worst, it could have been a draw, but why are you calling for a draw for? So if I didn't win, then I didn't win. So I didn't feel like I won the fight. The thing about that was it was a close fight. But, at the time, one of the things that people didn't know was that when I fought Chavez the first time in Mexico, coming back in the United States, that's when I had a problem with immigration. So I wasn't allowed back in the United States. So I actually got deported in December, right before Christmas time, after the first Chavez Jr. fight, trying to come home from the Chavez Jr. fight to my family. And I ended up spending that like 35 days in a detention center, the immigration detention center. And then after that, you know, they deported me to Mexico, and I had to train at not my gym, just train anywhere I can. And then I only had like 30 days to fight the rematch with Chavez Jr. in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So I mean, you know, there was a few things there that wasn't right, you know, mentally for me at the time. And you know, I'm not using that as an excuse because of the fight, how you lost it, but either way, I feel like if you were back in your own gym, back in your own friendly surroundings without all their problems, you know, you would fight a certain way.
Yeah, it gives you that extra mental boost that you need in a tough fight. You know, no, it's interesting to hear that. I mean, this was you've had it very unfair. We're going to get on to the rest of your career, of course, but as I talk more about it, there's been so many decisions that you've been on the wrong end of, you know, and this was just another unlucky situation for you, I guess, with all that surrounding the fight. I'm going to move on from that. 10 months later, you're back out again, this time against an undefeated fighter, 10-0. You lose this fight unanimously. This was against Willingham. Only 2 months after that, you're back in there again with yet another undefeated fighter, this time a young, fresh, undefeated 15-0 Mike Alvarado. You lose this fight via majority decision, one judge scoring it a draw, the other two judges favouring Alvarado by 5-3, so still very close. But you've got to give yourself credit for taking 4 fights in a row now against undefeated fighters, twice against Chavez, obviously the Willingham fight and the Alvarado fight. I'm not in the business of pointing the finger around, but I mean, bad matchmaking jumps out at me here. You barely had an amateur career. Why were you matched so hard? Because at this point in your career, you're still a novice.
Well, what happened was, I mean, I first of all, I didn't have any promoter. I didn't have any manager. I didn't have anything. So after that deportation, like I was talking about, and I came back to fight Chavez Jr. for the second fight, you know, I guess I didn't have no manager, no promoter, so I didn't have like a direction, and nobody was trying to help me. There was no promoter that was trying to give me, you know, not a winnable, easy fight, but just a fight that you're, you know, to build you up a little bit. So that's all the fights that I was being offered. So it's either take him or not take him and just sit. So I decided to take him, and I gained some good experience out of it. So I mean, it happens for a reason, and I gained some good experience from fighting those 4 tough fights back to back.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of balls, I've got to say so. Now, after the Alvarado fight, you string together 9 wins, including 1 over former world title challenger Danny Perez. Tell us about that fight, please, Carlos.
Yeah, after losing all those fights, I felt like I lost those fights by close decision, and I wanted to change up. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to lose any more of these fights. So I decided to concentrate on not losing any rounds, and that's where everything changed for me. And then I started winning all these fights. And actually, that Danny Perez fight, they called me in 6-day notice.
Wow.
For a 12-round NABO title fight, and it wasn't even at my weight class. That's where I got stuck fighting at 154, the light-middleweight division, because most of my career I was at 147.
Yeah, that's right.
And when they called me in 6-day notice, I was like, all right, 154. I don't have to struggle to make weight. I'm in the gym all the time. I'll take it. And I took it. I won it. And then they ranked me at 154. So the fight that they offered me was at 154. So that's pretty much how I just stood there.
It's interesting to hear that, because I was looking at your record and I thought, what happened? You know, because I know that we're going to get on to, you know, these days currently that we're on. I know that you had a fight a couple of days ago. We're going to get onto that a bit later, but you're back at, well, you're 2 weight classes down from what you was when you were sort of at the, I'm going to say in inverted commas, peak of the career, you know, when you were the world champ. So it is very interesting. I wondered why you were up at 154 if you were still able to make these lower weights, but we'll get onto that. You was out the ring after that fight for a year and a half regarding promotional issues with Don King. A lot of people even still aren't too sure what happened there. Are you able to shed any light on that at all?
Well, pretty much he got me to sign a contract because he was going to give me the fight against Corey Spinks.
Yeah.
Well, Corey Spinks was the champ at the time. And I said, all right, sounds good. So I signed the contract, and next thing you know, I guess it wasn't Don King's fault. I guess Corey Spinks wasn't ready to fight me, and he took off. And then Corey Spinks ended up having to fight the mandatory, which was, I think, K9 at the time. So they just skipped me, and then I ended up sitting for like a year and a half. And then that's all I could have done. And then we finally got some help and got out of the contract and moved on with my career.
Yeah. Now, as I said, it was a 19-month layoff after everything, but you jumped right back in there with yet another undefeated fighter, 15-0, by the name of, wait for it, Erislandy Lara, a top fighter. Now, this fight ends in another controversial decision for you. Carlos, talk to us. What's going on here? This is another fight you surely won.
Yeah, I was off so long, but I was in the gym all the time. So I came in with confidence into that fight, and I knew that I wanted to come back in like with a bang. I wanted to win this fight and get ranked right away. I didn't want to waste time because I knew that time was passing. But another one, Lara. I felt like I beat him. I outboxed the boxer at his own game, and I beat him by decision, but they gave it a draw.
Yeah, I mean, on one of the judges' scorecards, you were ahead, and on the other two judges' scorecards, they had it a draw. So the fight ended in a majority draw. I'd like to point out that one of the judges that night was the infamous CJ Ross. That's the judge who, of course, gave Mayweather against Canelo a draw. That's just something to think about. Again, I'm not pointing the finger at no one, but she had it a draw. So that says it all, really. We'll leave that there. Only 1 month later, you're back out again. You knock your opponent out in the 7th round. 3 months later, we're now in July of 2011. You take on former world champion Kermit Cintron, live on Showtime in the US. It's considered an upset when you beat him wide via unanimous decision after 10 rounds. Was that the best performance of your career at that point, do you think?
I don't think so. I think I just did to him what I was doing to the last 10, 12 guys that I was fighting. I feel like I was in a row. I felt like nobody could stop me at that time. And I didn't care if he was Kermit Cintron, former world champion, or who it was. I was just in a row doing my thing in the gym and doing my thing in the fights, and I feel like nothing could have stopped me at that time.
Yeah. Now, your next fight is another big one, this time against James Kirkland. Kirkland going into this fight with a record of 30 wins and just 1 loss. I'm going to let you explain what happened here, because this was one of the most shocking ends to a fight I can remember. You were DQ'd in the 10th round because your cornerman entered the ring apparently during the fight. It was all a bit mad. I mean, the bell went. There was a knock. I'll let you explain it. It was absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, I was winning the fight.
Hands down.
In the 10th round, he actually catches me. He catches me with a shot. I kind of get tangled up in the ropes, and I went down, which is all right. I agree. It's a knockdown because he punched me, whether I lost my balance or whatever. But I wasn't hurt. I got up right away, and the bell to end the round, it rang. So one of my team members was jumping in the ring. But then that's what the ref pulled him back out, told him to get out, and he actually went out of the ring. And then, see, this is the thing, because the ref started talking like to the commission and everybody else, and then he made up his mind and disqualified me. But like, he should have just kept the fight going. I mean, the round was already over with.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm urging anybody that's listening to this podcast this week that you need to go onto YouTube and check this out, because this was absolutely incredible. I mean, I've never seen nothing like it. It was. I rewatched it last night just to refresh my memory, and it was just bizarre. I mean, to be fair, I mean, James Kirkland wasn't really celebrating so much. I think he kind of knew he was losing that fight. I think some of the people from his corner even told you that you were winning the fight at the time of the incorrect decision, really, from the referee there. But again, it's bad.
His trainer and Wilson there.
Yeah, it's bad officiating once again. You seem to just be riddled with this. It keeps following you everywhere you go, Carlos.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like they were trying to take that from me. Somebody was trying to take that away from me because they knew that they were losing on points. So they were just looking for a way out, and that was their way out, and they took advantage of it.
Yeah. Now, despite gaining an L on your resume, you move forward. You get another unanimous decision win under your belt. Then you step in the ring against Corey Spinks finally, the former two-weight world champion. You outpoint him massively over 12 rounds, especially with the knockdown in the 11th. Tell us about that fight, because that was a brilliant, brilliant fight to watch.
Yeah, that was actually my first main event in my own hometown in Chicago. So that was pretty nice to have all the friends and family there, and it was a title eliminator, so it was a good one to have at hometown in Chicago. But I felt good. I felt sharp. He's a southpaw, but I don't have problems with southpaws because I fought many in my career, and I had some good sparring partners from Chicago that are southpaws. So I was just picking them apart, and I felt like I didn't have any problems with them.
Yeah, and that was a really good win. Now, that win catapulted you into a fight against the new IBF Light-Middleweight world champion, Ishe Smith. It was also on the undercard of Mayweather vs. Canelo. You, of course, captured the IBF Light-Middleweight title via a split decision that night. At this moment, Carlos, how good did it feel? Because as we mentioned there, you've beat but not got the decision against a couple of fighters who have gone on to big, big, big things now. And really, you should have kind of been a champion before this. These wins would have got you into the bigger fights. And you just had real bad luck. But finally, you're here. You're where you're supposed to be after all this time.
It felt great. It felt the best feeling. The best feeling in my boxing career. It was just like that was my goal. Like no matter how many bad decisions, no matter how many fights didn't go my way, I wasn't gonna quit till that happened, and I kept telling myself that. And to finally experience it, on the biggest show at that time, the biggest show, Las Vegas MGM Grand pay-per-view, it was sweet. It was sweet, and I had my family with me there, and it was just priceless.
Yeah, on top of everything else, it was well deserved. It was really well deserved. Now, you were set to defend your title against Jamal Charlo. We don't have to go into the details of why the fight never took place, but looking back in hindsight, would you have preferred to defend the title against Charlo or the guy you eventually defended against in Bundridge?
I guess Charlo. I mean, I was already ready. I was ready there in Las Vegas the week of the fight. We had a good preparation. I was mentally and physically focused on the Charlos, on one of the Charlos. I guess both, whatever. But at the time, just one. But we're going into the fight, and the unexpected happened, and the fight didn't happen. But it just I don't like to think about the past. That just it is what it is, and it didn't happen.
Now, your next fight, you're in the ring against former holder of the belt, the man who lost to Ishe Smith, as we mentioned there, Bundridge. Now, Bundridge puts in a really good effort and wins this fight. You lose the title. At this point, how hard is it to go back and want to come back stronger? Did it take anything out of you? Remember, as I said, it took a while to get to that point after all the bad decisions. You finally got there. It didn't last as long as you would have liked it to. How hard is this to go back and come again stronger,
Well, not just that, not just losing the fight. I feel like just being deported to Mexico after living all my life in the United States, and that took a big hit on me mentally. Like after the fight, all right, fine, you lost the fight, it sucks. Nobody wants to lose a fight, but then you don't get to go home. That's even worse than losing the fight. It's like, to me, that's worse. I have my family, my friends, everything that I know. My life is in Chicago, Wisconsin, and here I am not able to do that. So that kind of took its toll on me, like having to go to the gym and work out and train in a different scenario and not be around my surroundings. And it took me a while to adjust to that.
Just to clarify, when were you deported from the United States?
Right at the Charlo fight.
Right.
Charlo.
Right. So that's the reason why the Bundridge fight took place in Mexico, I take it.
Yes.
Ah, right. I got you. Okay, now it all makes sense. Okay, so on to more positive things now. You've bounced back from that loss by winning 5 fights in a row now. 4 of them in this year alone. You've been really busy this year. I know that you fought on the 20th of August. How did that go for you? I know that you're down at 140, which again is quite bizarre. You're down 2 weight classes. You were at 140 for that fight. How did that fight go? Obviously, I haven't seen any footage of it.
It was a unanimous decision. I won every round. The judges gave me every round. I felt like just working him, the body, the head. I felt like there was a point where he knew that he wasn't trying to win anymore. He was just trying to survive. And for some reason, they changed it. It was supposed to be a 10-round fight, and they changed it to an 8-round fight. So I had 2 less rounds to work, but either way, I got the unanimous decision.
Probably done your opponent a favour as well, to be honest, rather than another 6 minutes of getting beaten up, I guess. So I got to ask you, where will you be campaigning at? Obviously, I'd imagine you're going to try and take another run up to some sort of big fight. Which division will you be campaigning at now?
I want 147 because that's where all the fighters are right now. I feel like 147 is the deepest right now. I mean, out of the weight classes that I could make. I mean, I could make 154, 147, and, even 140, but I don't really want to do 140. I feel like it's too low for me right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to do 147 welterweight division. Look at the top 10. There's a lot of great opportunities for me there, and I feel like I got to beat one of these guys in the top 10 to get out there and get a world title fight.
And have you got your eye on anyone in the 147 division? Obviously, there's a lot of guys. As you said, it's absolutely thriving. The top 10 is just a hotbed of talent, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. And Danny Garcia is the WBC champ, and the WBC has me ranked right now at number 9. So that's a fight hopefully in the future that I could get.
I'd love to see that fight. That'd be brilliant. That really would be brilliant. I've got to ask you, if you could go back to some of the early fights, or perhaps not so long ago, if you were to have one rematch in your career, any decision that you could rematch and perhaps try and win, which fight would it be?
I think it has to be the Lara fight, Erislandy Lara. He's a world champ right now, and he's calling everybody out, and he's saying that nobody wants to fight him, and he's always saying that he's been robbed, and I feel like I got robbed against him, and I know that I could beat him again, and hopefully we could do this one for 12 rounds. Yeah.
I mean, if only that was the case in the first place, we probably wouldn't be here even talking about that one. I've got to ask you this. I know that you say you don't like to. You don't really like to look back and look on, focus on the negative results, but those bad decisions that went against you, do you ever sort of sit here and think, if you were to have got the nod over Chavez like you should have, if you were to get the nod over Lara like you should have, where would you have been? Because your life would have been completely different if you'd have got those wins, I believe. Does that ever get you down at all?
No, never. I feel like nothing can get me down. I feel like I've been through a lot of things in my life, in my boxing, that I don't feel anything can get me down because I don't allow it to. Like, I feel like it happens for a reason. And actually those fights, those decisions and everything made me a tougher fighter, tougher person, just in general, all around. So, I mean, I feel like it happened for a reason, and I feel like I learned from my mistakes, and I learned from, I guess, other people's mistakes. The reps, it just made me who I am, and I wouldn't change it, I guess, any other way.
Okay, that's a good positive thing to take from that. It's good to hear you say that, at least. Taking the negatives out of it and turning it into a positive. Now, I've got to ask you, Carlos, while you're here, there's a couple of questions I want to ask regarding a couple of other things. It's only a couple of questions I've got left for you now. A couple of sort of quick fire questions, a little bit more fun, a little bit less serious. Who's your best fighter to watch right now? Who do you watch? Who do you enjoy watching the most right now in the world of boxing?
Right now, I like Andrew Ward. I like the skill. I like the defense. I like how he picks his opponents apart.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who knows the game, they love to watch him. He's a class fighter. Probably the best pound for pound right now with the absence of
That's
Mayweather,
what I
I'd have to
think.
say. Yeah.
I think so too. But people, I don't know, people they just like to see the knockouts and everything. But I like the boxing part of it. But either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I wanted to get your opinion on a fight that's coming up. In the 154 division, Canelo's kind of gone down from 155 to 154 now. He's taking on England's very own Liam Smith. How do you see that fight playing out?
I mean, I didn't see too much of Liam Smith yet, but I feel Canelo should have his way with him.
Yeah. I mean, I've even though I really hope that doesn't happen, everybody's kind of got that feeling over here. To be honest, there's no getting away from how great Canelo really is. I want to ask you, over your career, you've I'd imagine you've sparred with a lot of top guys. Who would you say is the best fighter you've sparred with?
I guess I never really went to too many camps like that, but there's a lot of young guys in Chicago that I spar with. I guess I don't know. I guess not like any champion fighters, I guess, but I guess I sparred with Kermit Cintron before I fought him, like years ago when he was in his prime.
Okay. Did you take anything out of the spar to the fight when you beat him?
Yeah, I actually did, because when I went to spar with Kermit Cintron, he was a champion at the time, the IBF champion. I was talking about like 10 years ago maybe, and I was sparring with him, and I got the best out of him the first time that I sparred with him, and then the second time I did the same thing. And then they just didn't let me spar with him for the rest of the training camp. But I didn't mind it because I was getting paid just to be there. So I was like, all right, then I'll go and I'll just train. And if they don't want to use me, then they don't want to use me.
And then they did the worst thing by taking the fight with you in the end.
Yeah, he thought it was maybe just because of the sparring sessions. Because sparring and fighting is two different things. But
Yeah, of course. But you did it in sparring and in the real fight, so credit to yourself for that. And the last thing I've got to ask you now, this to everybody that we speak to from overseas. We ask this to everybody that we speak to. Your favourite UK fighter? A lot of guys over here like to hear the answer to that one. Who's your favourite UK fighter, past or present, from all time?
Oh man, it's got to be Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, that's a very popular answer. Lennox Lewis. Any particular reason why?
I mean, he was one of the best heavyweights that I've seen, and I just like his boxing skills and his focus.
Yeah, a real class fighter, and
especially when he was in shape. When he was in shape, he was hard to beat.
Yeah, for sure. Only 2 losses, and both losses avenged. So he retired that way. Knockout. So. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, by spectacular knockouts at that. Okay, excellent. Yeah. Now, just before I let you go, Carlos, I want to give you an opportunity to send out a message to any of your UK following. Believe it or not, there's a lot of guys over here who are fans of yourself. If you've got a message for those guys, please, please give it. We're listening.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice to hear that I got fans over there too. And I got my messages. I hope I could get a fight down there. I would love that. I would love to get a fight in the UK and experience that, because I always see those fights in the UK, and they be going out. They know how to throw a show down there, and the fans are real diehard boxing fans, and I would love to fight in front of a UK crowd.
Yeah, I mean, it would be brilliant to have you over here. Also, Carlos, are you on any type of social media at all, so that anybody can follow your progress?
Yes, I'm on Facebook. Is King Carlos.
Okay.
Twitter.
You on anything else? Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter. King Carlos MX.
Okay, I'll look out for that, because I wasn't aware that you had Twitter. But everybody that's listening, please give Carlos a follow and pay attention, because he's serious. He's going to get back into the mix, and believe me, if he gets that Danny Garcia fight, that'd be a real barn burner. Now, listen, Carlos, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you on this week's show. I wish you all the best for the future, and no doubt we'll speak again soon.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is called the preview part. There's 2 fights to mention. I said there was one earlier, but there's actually 2 fights to mention. There's a fight taking place over in Philippines for the IBF World Super Flyweight title. Mukjo Arroyo, of course, the champion, 17-0. He takes on Jerwin Ancahas, who has a record of 24 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. This will be a good fight. I don't really, I'm not going to say that I pay attention too much to the super flyweight division, but I know it's going to be a good fight. I know that both fighters are good fighters, and that's certainly one to look out for. But that's it for the Philippines. We're now going to go over to the UK, to Doncaster. He's been on our show before. He's a nice guy, but he came up short against Dillian White just recently. Dave Allen, he's on this bill. Dave, the White Rhino Allen, 9-1 with the 1 draw. Of course, that 1 loss coming to Dillian White. He's only in a 6-rounder. He takes on an opponent called Nuruddin Medoun. Again, it's someone that I don't really know too much about, with a record of 4 wins and 3 losses. I think Dave Allen himself will probably say it's just a keep busy fight. It's just a journeyman, to be honest, and he really should get the job done. But that's really it for the preview part of the show. It's been a really short talking show. It's mainly been the boxers doing most of the talking, which I think you guys probably prefer that anyway. But that's really it for all the previewing. That's really it for all the talking. There's one last thing to do before we end the show, and that, of course, is to welcome our second guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the current IBF Bantamweight champion of the world. It's, of course, Mr. Lee Haskins. Lee, it's great to have you back on.
Yeah, thank you for having me back on.
Always my pleasure, my friend. Always my pleasure. Now, the first question, Lee, you're fighting Stuart Hall in what's going to be the second defence of your IBF World Bantamweight title. We're 10 days away from fight night now. How has preparation been, and how are you feeling ahead of this all-British world title clash?
Yeah, preparation's been very well. I couldn't do any more, so, I'm ready and I'm looking forward to it, man. Like you said, only 10 days, and we're going to rock and roll.
I've also got to ask you, you were supposed to fight on a huge card, the Canelo card in the past, which never ended up happening. Yeah. Now you're fighting on a big pay-per-view bill here. How excited are you? Yeah,
I'm majorly excited. This is what boxing is all about. It's fighting on kind of shows like this. You want to be on massive shows, and Triple G and Cal Brook, you don't get much bigger than that. So, what a night to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. But I should also point out, this isn't the first time you fought on Golovkin's undercard as well.
Yeah, second time, actually, yeah. Last time was in France.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. You're practically mates, you and Gennady, no?
Yeah, we're good friends. We go out and stuff. No, not really. But, it's an honour to be fighting on one of his shows, and also on one of Cal Brook's. He's also a big name too, so I'm happy to be there.
Yeah, of course. Now, last time we spoke, it was just before your last fight, which was, of course, your first defence of your world title. You said to me on fight week, Joey, all I know is this guy is Eric Morales' brother. His name's Ivan Morales. I've got no idea what he fights like. I haven't seen any clips of him whatsoever. You, of course, you done the business. You got the job done. But this upcoming fight is the complete opposite. You've shared the ring with Stuart Hall before. You outpointed him widely over 12 rounds back in 2012. Since losing to you, of course, he went on to win a world title and lose it. That world title was the IBF belt, which you now hold. Has Hall become a better fighter, in your opinion, since losing to you back in 2012?
It's a hard one to say. I would, my honest opinion, I would say no. Who did he fought? He fought like Molina, who I think was well past it when he fought him for the world title, and it was a great show, but they didn't really do much in it. It was, they just stood there punching it. It was like two old punch bags going at it kind of thing. It was not being disrespectful, but so he beat Malingo, and that was it. And then he never really defended the belt. He picked out a guy that I've knocked out and he won over a cut, and then he went down a weight and picked another guy and then lost it to him. So he never really defended it. So you can't really call him a great fighter.
Okay. And of course, you were calling Hall out for a while when he was the world champ. As I said, he lost the title. Now you've got it. He's now your mandatory. Was you just calling him out purely because you wanted a title shot, or was it because you wanted to beat him again, belt or no belt?
No, I didn't need to prove myself by beating him again. I beat him easy enough the first time. It was because he was world champion, and I've been stepped over to get there kind of thing. And I think it was very wrong, and I should have been given my chance then to have the shot.
Okay, so obviously you've got him in the ring again. So are you know, would you have preferred to face someone else? I know it's a mandatory, but is this fight a bit like going over old ground for you, or are you just as excited as if it was anyone?
Just excited is a big fight on a big show. I would have took this if it was a voluntary. You know, I think it would have been a perfect fight if it was a voluntary. So either way, I'm happy to have it.
Without looking past Hall, obviously the aim is to beat him. As he's your mandatory, that gets the mandatory out of the way. Do you know what's next? Are we likely to see a unification with you and Jamie McDonnell at all? Another fight you've previously fought and beaten?
Yeah, people was brought it up. Obviously, they can look past this fight, but people has brought the fight up. But obviously, there's talks of him as well, also going up in weight. So, you know, it's hard decisions at the moment. We're just going to get this one out of the way and then just go from there. But I'm that kind of guy. I'm always up for fighting anybody. I want to fight the best to prove I'm the best. And, you know, I'm just all about showing people I'm a worthy world champion.
Yeah, of course. Now, also, last time we spoke, I asked you, how does it feel to be a part of the 11 British world champions at the time that we had? We've now got 14. Britain are really 14, in charge right now, Lee, eh?
Yeah, we are. We're doing really well. You know, boxing on is high at the moment, and, you know, everybody's loving it. So we just need to keep this rolling, eh?
It's incredible. It is incredible. And I want to get your prediction on the main event, Golovkin against Brook. I know that, of course, we're all Brits. We all want Kel to do the business, but it's a tough ask.
Of course we do. It is a tough ask. And if there was a surprise out there, I think Brook is the one to do it. You know, just out of the blue kind of thing, to pull off a good shot. He's quite tricky, but then I think Triple G just a little bit too much at the moment. Yeah,
I know. Again, you know, hopefully he can get the job done, but there's no getting away from Golovkin. He's absolutely tremendous. He really is.
He is, now, yeah. He's dangerous.
He is. And now, aside from your fight, which other fight on the bill are you most looking forward to if you actually get a chance to watch one, by the way?
I don't really know what fight. I haven't even looked to see what fight. I don't know who's fighting apart from myself, obviously, and the Brook fight. I haven't looked, but I'm just interested more in just sorting myself out, and obviously the main event.
Yeah, of course. Now, that's the best way. If you're focused on your own fight, as you are, you don't even know what other fights are on the bill. But there's some good fights on the bill. The card does feature some good fights. Yeah. There's another world title fight on the bill. It's a free world title fights on the bill. Of course, your one, the Brook Golovkin fight, and young Charlie Edwards. Young Charlie Edwards is actually, I think he's 8-0 at the moment, and he can possibly capture a world title in his 9th fight against this other guy. It's down at flyweight, that fight. Yeah, that'd be tremendous. Yeah, really, really good fight. And finally now, before we let you go, I wanted to get not your prediction. I don't want to push you for a prediction, but if you've got one, please let us know. What will we see on fight night from both of you guys? What's the outcome of this fight?
You know, with Hall, I think you get what you see. He fights the same way in every single fight. He's a come forward fighter. You know, I think he's going to do that with me. You're going to see speed, dazzling power. I feel like it's going to be a great night, and I'm aiming to stop him within the 6th round.
Excellent. Okay. Excellent stuff. Very confident.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Excellent stuff, Lee. Listen, it's a real pleasure having you back on. You're a class act. I wish you all the best for next Saturday, and we'll no doubt speak again soon, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time to conclude episode 48 of the Boxhard podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A short but thorough interview with Lee Haskins there. I'd like to thank Lee Haskins for coming on this week's show. And also I'd like to thank Carlos Molina. A real in-depth interview, very revealing as well with him. I said at the start of August that we'd aim to have at least one world champion on each week's show. 4 weeks are in August, but we've surpassed that and we've brought you 6 weeks of shows with 8 world champions. The biggest thank you of all goes out to the listeners as always. If you're a regular listener, thank you for tuning in once again. If you're a first-time listener, hey, I hope to see you back next week. Until then, my friends, take care.